This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon and welcome to a very cool and calm afternoon here in Djuma. Cool and calm enough for these tawny bodies to be sitting and relaxing on the middle of the road. I see 4 lions that belong to the Talamati Pride. So everyone, buckle up. It's that time of day for your live safari through the African bush. Welcome on board. It's a pleasure to have you in the back of my vehicle and all the other vehicles that we will be coming to you live from different locations here in South Africa. My name is Lauren. I do have Davi on camera. These guys are the Talamatis on Djuma once again. Yes, we are in the northwestern corner of the reserve, quite close to Buffelshoek cut line, but can you see the 4th body now, Davi? He was a little bit confused when I said 4. But yes, there are 4. Or there's possibly more, actually. I could be lying, but I can only see 4. And the rest were at Jacana Dam earlier. So as I said, it's great to have you here, but you must talk to us. Use the hashtag WildEarth on Twitter, at FC on the YouTube chat, or if you're under 18, please email us. Your questions are most definitely the best, and you just send an email to kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. Or another option, you can register on the Wild Earth website. Head over to the live safari page and you can submit your questions there. Now, I say it's cool. It's actually 26 degrees Celsius and 78 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's probably summer in Scotland. But it's rather cool for South Africa and overcast. So what I'm hoping is that our sleepy tawny cats here may get mobile slightly earlier than the norm. They normally wait until the temperatures fall. So it's much cooler for them to get mobile. But I'm really hoping that because it's already cool, it's already overcast, they're going to get up sooner. I don't know where the rest of the pride is. I believe they could be at Jacana Dam, but I'll try and find out. And because we're in the northwestern sector of Djuma right now, they're actually not too far away from the Nkuhumas, believe it or not. I think the Nkuhumas are still in the same place that they were yesterday, in the open area at Simbambili Dam. And unfortunately, Andrew tried very, very hard to get them for you, but it's just slightly out of signal range. They positioned themselves perfectly in a lovely little drainage line. But it's really not too far away. Yes, it's on Simbambili, but in terms of distance, it's actually quite close, which is remarkable. I'd love to see the Nkuhumas again, I really would, but it's fabulous being able to spend so much time with the Talamatis. They're using Torchwood now, Chitwa, all parts of Djuma, and still got Buffelshoek. It's a large area, especially when you've got to patrol it, claim it as yours, and keep others out. Kendra, I thought you were going to ask why do lions love sleeping, and I was going to say don't we all. But by the road, well, look at the long grass. Although I'm sure it's very, very comfortable over there, it's been raining, drizzling on and off, so sometimes the grass is wet, and I would much prefer to lie on a road than wet grass. But sometimes if it's a cool day, the roads will actually retain heat. They can actually be really, really warm on your body if you lie on them, and vice versa. So really, really hot days, sometimes the ground, if it's been in the shade, can actually be cooler. Now, when lions are walking or they're on patrol, they do tend to use roads. Why? They're the apex predator. They really don't have to sort of weave in and out through the vegetation and avoid being seen, as do leopards. They're a pride, they're numerous, they're at the very, very top of the food chain, if you like, and it's far easier to walk along a road than it is to weave throughout this thicket. Davi's just going to show you how thick it really is. Some of the grass is so long that it'll almost come up to the lion's neck. Can you imagine walking through that? It's going to take effort. It's going to use a lot more energy than just normally strolling along a road. So there's a number of different reasons why they sleep here. I also think they just sleep wherever they fancy. They're lions after all. That one on the right doesn't look very comfortable. That position does not look comfortable to me. That one does. That one looks very comfy. So Davi and I are going to sit here and watch the Talamatis, and we're going to send you across to Andrew to say good afternoon.
Good afternoon everybody. Welcome to Djuma Private Game Reserve here in Servicent. We're actually on a very much higher point, top of quarantine, looking at the kudu busy chewing their card right in the open, and all just looking around, each one take its position to look for a safety. So I'm Andrew, and on camera I have Simon this afternoon. So this is where we're going to start the drive for this afternoon. And by looking at them there, it looks like they're all relaxed, feeling very comfortable, as it's always best for all ruminate. When they do ruminate, chew their card, they all lie down, makes it a lot easier for them to regurgitate again. She's up. So we're coming to you live from these locations, and we would like to hear from you. We're happy to answer your question whenever you send them. Which a simple way is to register on the Wild Earth website and head over to the live Safari page, and you can submit your question there. And we'll be having those questions for you, or answer for you. But then also you can still use on Twitter #WildEarth, and YouTube channel at FC. If you're under the age of 18, you can use kids questions at wildearth.tv. It's so peaceful. There's also one of the young male that the horn is about to come out there in the middle of them. It's probably at least just about a year old when he started to see the horns are up a bit on the kudu. Well, it's not bad for them to come to this open area. The temperatures of the day, 26 degrees Fahrenheit, 78. Susanna, I hear you saying it's actually quite a perfect day for sighting. Indeed, it is. It's actually so cool that animal, they can still do their own thing, movement. And that's why I started in this area here, because I know last night, quarantine, she was left in the area and there was no visual of her this morning. But with the kudus sitting here relaxed, also doesn't mean that she's not around, because you don't want to be spotted. So then it could be that maybe she was watching them, or she could be far from here. So indeed it is great. A sighting for this afternoon. Henry, I hear you saying you always get confused between these species, Nyala and the kudu. Yeah, it does confuse, but Nyala, the females are always slightly yellow, but with these vertical stripes, they always Nyala. The male Nyala is probably grey, dark grey, but a heavily beard under the neck and things, but they still have horns, but not twisted or spiral horns as they could have. Where Nyala, they also prefer riverine area, hiding thicket, where these two also prefer those bushes because they are browser. But they do actually come out to the high point like this when they can, especially when they're about to lie down and exercise, chewing their cud. So let's spend time around here checking for possible tracks or anything we're going to find this afternoon for everyone. We're sending you over to Yapi with its elephant.
Good afternoon and welcome to And Beyond Ngala, where we are currently with a herd of elephants in the Timbavati riverbed. And you can see that there's a lot of excess energy because of the cool weather at the moment. And they're just, most of them are casually feeding, and then there's one or two playing around a little bit. Now, I'm Yapi, and behind the camera we've got BK. And this afternoon we thought we'd set out into the riverbed, see if we can pick up on any tracks of lions. With the cool weather today, there's a good chance that animals might have moved during the middle of the day and not the usual sleep or rest that they take in the heat of the day. And have a look at that. You can see that elephant. And they're having quite a bit of fun. The one at the back's got a mouthful of food and throwing away something else. And the lazy one at the bottom. Now, normally, under an extreme heat, you'll find that the elephants would move up into the shade. But now that it's much cooler, especially the little ones, have to get rid of all that excess energy. There's a lot of water around, a lot of food, so they really don't have too much worries. Now I've noticed that there's a few large females with these younger ones, and it seems like they're all quite comfortable with the little ones playing with each other. There was a bit of an interference just now from one of the larger females when one of the older males started playing too rough. Look at that little one trying to get up. The sand must be nice and cool at the moment. So I've noticed that most of these little ones pushing each other around, especially kind of almost looks like bullying the little ones. And you can see now that one's making that little one's life very hard. He's trying to get up. And every now and again you'll have some of the females just step in to make the older males remember what their place is and that they shouldn't be playing too hard with the little ones. I'm not sure exactly why they're up there. I know that they're feeding, and there's a lot of variety along the riverbed here, lots of good grass. But it looked like there was also a bit of a... Just behind where this herd is, there's a dip in there on the riverbank, and it looked like some of them were digging for loose sand there that they threw over their heads and their shoulders. And I think the sand is also a good surface to scratch oneself at, especially those hard to reach places like the bottom of the belly. You can imagine after this rain and the tall grasses, there's a lot of ticks and other skin parasites that might be making these animals itch a little bit. But just have a look at that. Quite a few animals. A quick count just now gave me around about 20. But I heard even more further off. Miley, do elephants always use the riverbed sand to dust bath? Not always. They also use areas with loose topsoil further away from the riverbed, like the actual dusty surface of the soil. But when they are in the riverbed, I think it's because of the coolness of the sand as well. Besides the fact that it's large particles, and it does aid a little bit with protection against the sun, it is also in a way to cool them down. You can see where those elephants are, where that one's laying down. The sand still looks quite wet there. And it's stretched out on its flank, trying to maximize the surface that touches the cool air. I think I'm just going to move back a little bit before this female and young one comes straight towards us. Now, elephants is the largest creatures we have out here, and a large creature certainly deserves a large amount of respect. Especially with all the babies around, it's necessary to give them the right of way. Now I can see there's one little one way at the back off to the right. That looks like he's in a very, very playful mood at this point. And when one do stick too close to these animals, then you often find that their attention gets averted from whatever they were doing, and then they start paying attention to you, which is... we would not like to interfere with their daily activities. There's a lot of little ones like that, 1 to 2 years old, And these ones specifically, they have a... Ooh. They are very, very curious indeed, and anything nearby, they usually start paying attention to. You can see that looks like quite an old female up front here. Look at that little one. You can see him holding his head up high, his tail out. And it looks like he is trying to relieve himself and might be a little bit constipated. But he's also holding his head up, trying to make himself large. And what we're seeing there is normally what an elephant on the defense would do. Is back into a bush or a shrub, hold up its head, stretch out the ears to make himself look slightly larger. You can see the one on the right is much larger. And when herds congregate around areas with good water like we're seeing at this point, you often find that the young elephant bulls try to establish which one might be the strongest of the group. Now it's got high ground, so now it's got a little bit more confidence. Now I do see that a lot of these elephants have temporal gland secretions at the moment. And even though we think that these animals are okay and they are quite comfortable, I think the sheer amount of elephants in this area puts a lot of stress on especially mothers with young ones. So it does put a little bit of stress on the rest of the herd. You can imagine with a lot of young bulls coming nearby, even larger bulls that might be in must, following herds like this, they'll be looking for some females. Annie, how much does a baby elephant weigh at birth? It can weigh anything from about 80 kilograms up to 100, in some cases even more. I think it's also got to do a little bit with the genes. But it is quite a heavy little baby. And that weight will only be reached towards the end of the mother's pregnancy. Just look at that. It's rare to see a larger elephant like that lay down on its side. If that elephant doesn't watch out, it might slip down that bank. Look at the little one coming over to come and give a hand to see what's happening. It's amazing how these creatures are. They are quite gentle, and they are extremely concerned about the well-being of the rest of the animals within the herd. So if something like that happens, you often find that they do make their way over just to come and have a look. And it looks like that's looks like a dark patch of soil. So it's probably a soil that's a little bit more likely to adhere to the elephant's skin. It's amazing, you can't even see the two little elephants off to the right. You can barely see their ears as they're pushing each other around. But there's a lot of good food around this area, and these elephants look to me like at this point they're slowly but surely moving over towards a nearby water source, which is just a small little mud pan. Now, even though it is overcast and we had a lot of rain, at the moment you can feel the heat. It's quite humid. And even though the elephants have a very thick skin, they do suffer under the bright sunlight. And in overcast conditions like this, the sun's actually quite harsh without realizing it. It's amazing to see like they're constantly aware of the other elephants around them, especially the younger ones. Like, even though they turn and look like they might be serious about feeding at some point, and they usually jump back and go to the nearest young one. And just have a look, we have another herd further down the riverbed. You can see that looks like a very, very large cow, more than likely the matriarch of this group. I can see one tusk is bent downwards. And what she's doing at the moment, that's usually the way they start to look for water in the riverbed. So they use the large, broad, flat foot, kick off the excess soil, and then start digging with the trunk.
Good afternoon and welcome to Phinda. We have found an elephant bull. You can see he's got a mouthful of food there at the moment. And if you look quite closely at his back legs, you can see urine dripping down. If you look at his temples, you can see there's a lot of secretion leaking out. This bull is in must. There's a very musty smell as well. And he is a little bit irritable this afternoon. You can see he's kicking dust now at us, so we're just going to make sure we give him his space. My name's Devin. Behind the camera we've got Odie. And welcome to Phinda Private Game Reserve this afternoon. So when we give him a little bit of distance, he's very, very relaxed. He's going to carry on feeding now. But he seems pretty intent on making sure we don't get too close. And when we do get a little bit closer, or when he gets a little bit closer to us, I should say, then he flaps his ears out and he starts trotting towards us. Which is not ideal because he's pretty big. I don't know if you noticed. Yeah. Escort. Viola, it can vary quite a lot. Younger bulls, they are in must for shorter periods of time if they've got older bulls with them. So when they're younger, they are quite boisterous. Their testosterone that comes with must, or the increase in testosterone, is a new thing for them. They're not quite sure how to control it. And they can stay in must for a long time if there aren't any older bulls. What does happen though is the older bulls will they'll get boisterous, the younger ones, and the older bulls will push them around and sort them out, and they actually push them out of must. And then older bulls that are more in control can stay in must for much longer periods of time, and it almost has no impact on them. Taking us for a very long walk now. I'm glad we're not in a rush to get past him, because that wouldn't be happening. Oh, there's some piglets on the left there as well. We've just actually reversed past them. It's a mother warthog and 3 little piglets down below at the bottom here. Very sweet little things. I'm just going to move back a little bit more. It might be interesting to see what his reaction to little piglets are. I wonder if he's going to get as annoyed with them as he will with us. Yep, they're at the entrance to a burrow. And I think they're going to duck down the burrow. So he's now walking along. This is the main road that runs through Punda. Oh, there you go, the little piglets. So we're just going to make sure we're going to try to keep about 40-50 meters between us. And for now, we're probably going to try duck around. We'll take a side road and keep on heading in the direction we were going earlier.
So now we have here a whistling duck that we see right on the edge of the water, the Gary Dam. And it's always beautiful to see them in this waterhole. They have a sometimes problem with Egyptian geese. Since they are so small, they get pushed off the lake. But I think is that because none of the Egyptian geese that I can see right now here. And they are so free to roam around, search for anything they can in the water. And the name whistling duck comes from where they make sound, they whistle when they do that. And they used to call white-faced duck. And they move in flocks, probably 6 up to maybe 10 birds together. So they're going to plan their forage around here just before other Egyptian geese arrive, because then they won't be free anymore. We're just gonna push off and fly different watering hole where there maybe it happens.
Not moved very much. Definitely 4. And I've got the update that the rest of the pride, the Talamati pride, plus Dark Mame, I think, are at Jacana Dam. That was very sweet. And Jacana Dam is in Buffelshoek, but it's really not far from where we are right now. So I imagine, I'm going to guess, that once these lions wake up, they're going to head straight north along this road and reunite with the rest of the pride. There'll probably be a lot of vocalizations, contact calls, so that these 4 can find out where the rest are. I think that'll be such a lovely moment if we're able to keep up with them and they head to Jacana Dam. Look at that big paw. We often get asked, how do you know if it's a lion track or a leopard track? And really, it boils down to size. Lions and leopards are part of the same genus, Panthera. And they're very similar biologically and physiologically. They're closely related. But when you look at tracks, it's the size. Lions are much bigger than leopards. Both male and female leopard tracks are smaller and far more petite than these lions, even a lioness. And it's the tracks that give them away. You can always tell where an animal's been walking from the tracks. Oh, we've got a roller up here. Oh no, it's gone to the other side of the tree. Liam, 100%. They're nocturnal. Lions are primarily nocturnal. Sorry, Davi, I think it's a European roller that keeps bouncing about on this tree, this dead knobthorn, landing on the ground very, very close to the lions, picking up insects. I'm just going to get my binoculars. I think it's the Europeans. I'm still overjoyed to see these guys. Oh yes, from this terrible angle, it really does look like... Yes, it's a European. Hello. You're not scared of the lions, are you? But yes, they are nocturnal primarily. You will see lion prides and coalitions be active during the day, and they're opportunistic. Weather patterns, environmental patterns will all affect the lion's choices. And if they're hungry, but generally speaking, across the board, lions are nocturnal. So yes, they will get active during the night. It's cooler, and they can also rely on that cover of darkness. So they can sort of sneak up on their prey. But in the Masai Mara, we witness lion prides, sausage trees, olololo, the owinos, very active during the day as well. But just like humans, we are diurnal, so we tend to be awake all day, sleep all night. For most of us anyway. So because they're nocturnal, they're of course going to sleep during the day. But I just think today they're just going to get a little bit more active sooner because of the temperatures. I could be wrong. But just like Tlalamba last night, just as we were leaving her, it was getting a little bit too dark. Bless me, sorry. She started to get active. As soon as that sun starts to set. There's something quite peaceful about watching these big cats asleep. They're so powerful, yet they're so graceful. They're so beautiful to the human eye. And they're keystone species out here. We were having a discussion about keystone species yesterday. And of course, lions are keystone species out here, the apex predator that keeps all the prey populations in check. If the lion populations were to decrease or something was to happen, it would have a sort of domino effect on the prey populations, which would then have a knock-on effect on the vegetation. Anything that goes slightly out of balance will really affect the others in the ecosystem. KB, that's a good question. One we get asked a lot, but it really depends. It's not really a question that has a definite answer, to be honest. It really depends when they last ate, what they last had to eat, but they're mammals. So the sort of fundamental thing that you must remember here is that mammals, just like us, our internal body temperature is maintained at a constant temperature. It doesn't fluctuate unless we're sick, of course. And it's maintained through metabolism, and your metabolism is fueled by food. So therefore, mammals, in comparison to reptiles, have to eat a lot more often and regularly in order to fuel the metabolism. If they don't, then it's going to cause a lot of sort of disruption in maintaining the internal body temperature. So it really depends when they last ate, but generally speaking, you will find that lions can eat every day if it's something small. So we once watched the Nkuhuma Pride take down an impala ram. Now, impala rams are medium-sized antelopes, and it was over in seconds. Not everyone got fed, and it was definitely not enough to sustain all those hungry tummies. So again, the next day, they hunted. But if they kill a buffalo, of course, they're going to sit on that buffalo for a really, really long time. But they will continue to feed every single day. They'll get full, they'll rest, they'll digest and come back again. So that question really has no definitive answer. But the cats can feed every single day. I've seen lions snack on baby warthogs, even a squirrel. So just like the leopards, if they've not managed to take down anything big, they can snack as they go. And it's important, they need to. They need fuel to power their metabolism. And also to maintain the muscle mass, they're very powerful animals. They have a lot more muscle and a lot more body weight than leopards. And they need to sustain that. But predators are used to the life of feast or famine. If they go for a few days without food, they're used to that. And just as you or I would survive without food for a few days, it wouldn't be pleasant. Our tummies would be rumbling. We would probably not feel very energetic or well, but we could survive. Faye, you're asking what do I like most about lions? Their social dynamics. They can be very fierce and very aggressive with one another. I have seen lions be extremely aggressive with one another, especially over food. I've seen female lionesses be very aggressive to the cubs as well, which is rather disturbing. But when they're together, the pride dynamics is really special. They can be very tender with one another. They just like to be in one another's company. And that's the females I'm talking about. They just love to groom and to cuddle and to touch. Generally speaking, I don't really think lionesses like to be on their own. You will see them on their own. They do split from the pride, but they have such tight bonds with one another. Especially in comparison to leopards, who are out here completely on their own. Lionesses have always got each other. Yes, there'll be squabbles and there'll be arguments and they'll compete, but generally speaking, the pride dynamics are extremely special. They must understand each other very well, and that's what allows them to have great success when cooperatively hunting, because they really do understand each other. Okay, so we're going to sit here just a little bit longer with the Talamatis, but for now we're going to send you across to Andrew.
Thanks, Lauren. So we now have a Warburg's eagle. Looks like two of them. As you can see, they're all trying to print himself. One of the migration eagle that we find this time of year where it's wet, and they come to breed down here. There's one there, looks like a male on the lower right. And then now the difference is that there is a pale and a dark form here. And they're always sometimes confusion or can be confused birds. But there is a color difference where pale and a dark or light brown sometimes. So they come to breed, and it's probably every season they got to come back as a pair of them, very much same area. Always they prefer to use the same nest as last year or last time they've been in the area. Bridget, so you're asking if there are migration bird. Yes, there are migration bird. And you find them pretty much throughout the area, Eastern Africa, and sometimes in Ethiopia you probably see them as well when they disappear from here. This is when here's winter then. So the first thing they arrive here, which is anything from October, November, they started to prepare their nest and lay clutch of one eggs or two sometimes, but recorded of one. Incubate by the females, rear by the males. Which incubation takes probably 46 days mostly. And they're nesting for 75 days roughly. So I'm going to carry on again looking around here. In the meantime, I'll be sending you across to Yapi with his elephant.
And we still with this herd of elephants. And this herd of elephants is crossing the riverbed again. Now towards the southern bank. Have a look, see that one female right in front. She doesn't have any tusks. And she just picked up a little bit of the cool sand to throw on her as she moves across. But what's actually happening here is those are mainly... That's a female with her younger ones, and I've seen a lot going up that side. But in between, there's quite a lot of young bulls around. You can see the effort that it takes for an elephant to get up a steep bank like that. And those two have been pushing and going at each other for quite a while now. The one at the back slightly larger, and from I can see he's got quite a bit of temporal gland secretion that's indicating that he's in a little bit more stress than the one in front of him, but he's been pushing and chasing him and zigzagging across this riverbed for quite a while now. And there's a lot of tensions going on around here between these younger bulls. Larger females are trying to move the little ones away from them. And there's a lot of competition going on between the young ones. There you go. Even though it's more of a game, and they push each other like that to try and establish who's the strongest, it's also... It turns serious quite quickly when the one loses its temper. Now I can't help but wonder why these elephants would be. Some of them sound really upset. And I can hear branches breaking. And I think it's because of the sheer amount of elephants here. In a case like this, Veronica, it certainly is amazing how far these animals travel every day. Where these ones specifically came from, I don't know, but I do know that they weren't within this area yesterday. In fact, we haven't really seen a lot of elephants over the last few days, especially herds. And then some days they're just back, and you see them everywhere. From what I can hear and what I'm thinking is at this point, there's another herd coming across. There are at least 3 or 4 herds in this particular area, each with their own matriarch and group. And I think what we are hearing is the interaction between the herds when they meet. There's a very upset young bull there. Another young bull that just came in and made that herd move back a little bit. Now these young bulls, they're fun to watch and they do play with each other, but they can be quite temperamental, and because of that, I don't think they always realize the stress that they put on the rest of the herd. There's always a chance of the younger ones getting injured in their playing process, and then also just the fact that they have to share the food and the resources, the water. And what I've noticed is there's a lot of these elephants, especially these young bulls, that seem quite confused. They're not sure exactly where they fit I haven't seen any very big bulls in and around the area, which is for them often a reason for concern or a little bit of stress. After the good rains we've had so far, you can see the riverine forest is really lush and very, very dense, and it's amazing. When these elephants go up on this bank, they almost disappear immediately. If it's not for the noises and the ears flapping, the trees moving as they're feeding, you hardly even notice that they're there.
Have you been watching Wild Earth and dreamt of being right there on safari with one of the guides? Well, now you can. Wild Earth is offering you a chance to buy a ticket to dream. You or a friend can hop on board a live Wild Earth show and join our guide on safari. The ticket is redeemable at any of our locations, anytime in the future. Only a limited number of tickets are available, so don't wait. Get your ticket now and start dreaming. Terms and conditions apply.
My name is Ross and I'm a field guide at and Beyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. I love getting questions from guests on Wild Earth because I love sharing and learning information about nature with new people, and it also makes me feel like you're all joining me in real life. If you want to ask a question on Wild Earth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit your question below our live feed.
This is Rusty. He's my favorite vehicle and we've been through all the good times here in the bush. Now, if you feel a connection to Djuma Game Reserve like I do, then we have a fantastic opportunity for you. You can have your name engraved on a brushed metal plaque just like this one, and we will attach it to Rusty so you can always be with us on safari in spirit. We will even send you a digital photograph once your plaque is mounted on Rusty. Spaces are limited, so grab your spot now.
Hello, boy. You are a monster. And he's coming right up to us. Hello, boy. Oh, settle down. Settle down. He is very, very close. He's pushing his trunk against the car. You can feel the car moving. Hey, 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 hey. Stop that.
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth daily.
Welcome back, everyone. We decided to come up to this lookout point to try and get a bit of a better lookout over the beautiful plains we've got in front of us here. And we've been able to see quite a few things. I've got some wildebeest quite close by. I saw some buffalo off in the distance somewhere. And then right in the distance, because we can see really, really far here, I think I've managed to spot a black rhino. It's definitely a rhino. Me and Owen have been debating about whether or not it's a black or white rhino. I think it's, because it's so far away, quite tricky to find in the camera. And the only real feature we'll be able to see from a distance like this is the back of the rhino. So if the rhino's got that kind of horse-shaped back, so if it's completely concave, or if it's got a little hump in the middle like a camel, then we know it is probably a white rhino. But at this distance, and the rhino's lying down as well, really, really, really tricky to see. Yeah, it's way off in the distance, probably better part of a kilometer, maybe more, off in the distance. But it just goes to show how useful it can be coming up onto these high points and spending a bit of time scanning. The buffalo are also quite a way off. I'm not going to try direct Owen to those. He had a hard enough time trying to find the black rhino. But what we'll probably do from here is head down and try find that rhino from a little bit closer. Karen, this landscape, you're quite right, it's absolutely breathtaking. It's quite windy up here. I'm not sure if you can hear that now, but absolutely beautiful. We are in the south of Phinda at the moment, and we're looking out to the kind of southwest here. The sun's really starting to dip as the afternoon gets a little bit later. There are some beautiful clouds and some beautiful sun rays that the clouds are kind of pushing through or creating. I was hoping we would be able to spot some cheetah or lion from up here, because we can see so far. So the kind of places I've been looking is in the shady areas underneath trees, but for now I haven't had any success. We really can see for miles up here though, and it's a beautiful spot to come sit and spend the afternoon. I'm going to spend a little while longer scanning. You can see the grassland nature of this part of the reserve. So Phinda is really, really diverse, and we've got a number of different habitat types. But in the south here, it's mainly this like open grassland. You can see lots of grasses out of here, especially higher up on the hills. As you go down into the little valleys and ravines, there's a lot of slightly taller thickets. And those thickets are actually really good for black rhino. So we use this kind of technique of getting a little bit of height above the lower drainage lines to stop and scan. And it's actually a really effective way of looking for black rhino, which is really cool. Black rhino don't eat grass so much, they eat mostly leaves and branches. So there are black rhino in this area. As you can imagine, any animal that eats grass, this is like heaven for them. So white rhino, sometimes elephant, zebra, buffalo, and wildebeest, impala. This is all kind of prime habitat for them. We also often find a lot of our cheetah, when they give birth or have new litters of cubs, they'll have them in this area here. So with the drainage lines being a little bit thicker, there's space to hide their cubs away, but it's also nice and open, so they can see any other predators and threats coming from really, really far away, which is just ideal. I think I've managed to spot some more rhino in the distance. Leanne, I think you are probably spot on. It's still pretty warm out here, and I've got no doubt that the lions are lying in the shade somewhere. It's quite unlikely that they'll be out in the sun at the moment, but I was hoping that they would be underneath slightly, maybe a thicker tree, slightly more open tree, so that we can see into the shade underneath it. So there are lots of trees like that up, and lots of trees that we can see like that up here. Unfortunately, all the ones that I've scanned seem to have very little lying in the shade underneath them, bar a few impala here and there. But if the lions are in the kind of lower down in the drainage lines in those quite dense thickets, you are quite right, we're probably quite unlikely to be able to see them from up here. But still, I think a worthwhile exercise to come have a check. And it's been really nice to be able to show you this view. I think it's probably one of my favorite viewpoints on Phinda to stop at. Odie, can you see the wildebeest down here on the edge? Donna, the rarest animal. Oh, that's a tough question. We have got pangolin on Phinda, which have been reintroduced in the last year and a half, and they are pretty rare, but we do see them. So I suppose, so we can just see there's a herd of wildebeest. So I'm going to duck through the camera. Not too far away. I was just asking Odie if he could spot them. But yeah, so pangolin are pretty rare. We've got a handful of them on the reserve now, and that's part of a greater conservation project, which is actually really cool. We also have other animals. So, for example, aardvark and honey badger. I have personally never seen either of them. We see tracks of honey badger every now and again. Maybe once every 6 months to a year, a ranger will see one late at night, and it's pretty much the same with the aardvark. So those two species exist here but are really quite rare. And then there's a couple other animals that are really actually endemic to this area. So we've got a number of endemic birds. There is a little bit of forest type called sand forest, which is, there's really not very much of it left. And because there's not much sand forest left, the birds that live specifically in the sand forest, there's 2 or 3 of them, only exist in very small areas. And because there's sand forest on Phinda, we can find some of those birds here, which is really cool. And there's also a spider that was discovered, if I'm not mistaken, in 2016, a button spider. And because it was first described by science on this reserve, it's now called the Phinda button spider. There's also a Phinda rain frog. So in terms of unique and special species that are rare to see, there's quite a lot happening on Phinda actually. One of my favorite birds to see is a southern banded snake eagle, which is also really rare. It's the New Roberts book says that there are less than 50 breeding pairs left in South Africa. So that's 100 adult birds in the whole of South Africa. And they only occur up here on the northeastern coast of KwaZulu-Natal. And we do see some of those every now and again as well, which is, I mean, it's incredibly special. And we're incredibly fortunate to have pairs that are living and occupying space on our reserve where we get to see them. Now, by no means are any of those animals easy to see if you come visit, but yeah, they are here and we do see them periodically. And for me, being in a space where there's opportunity to see that type of thing is really special. And I'm really appreciative of the opportunity. I've started rescanning bushes and trees in shady spots, and in the hope that I missed something. I'm not too sure I have. There's some zebra. We are going to move down from this hilltop now. I think we've pretty much seen everything that we've got to see. And we're going to send you across to Lauren, and she's going to look after you for the next little while. But I hope to see you guys shortly with something cool.
Our cats, which we do have, are still flat. So what I am thinking of doing is making this the last segment here and possibly bumbling over to Jacana Dam. We do get signal there on the dam wall and it's very, very beautiful. And maybe we can just spend time with the rest of the pride. And you never know, they might become a little bit more awake than this 4 here. They don't look like they've fed or not on something large. Their bellies are not full. And the Talamatis are very they have a reputation in the north, and when I say north, I mean Buffelshoek, for taking down large items of prey, giraffes and buffalo, really regularly. So you never know what's in store tonight. The bigger the prides, the more cooperation, the larger the prey that they can take down. They all fulfill different roles. And what happens is when large items of prey, like your buffalo, like your giraffe, are not present in the area. And that was what happened originally last year when the Nkuhumas started wandering a little bit down south to see if they could go in search of more buffalo. They followed the buffalo and they ended up just pushing slightly more south. Resources are what matters for a pride, both food and water. Mats, a lioness would leave the pride but not to join another. Oh, hello. Oh. That's what she thinks of your question, Matt. I'm only joking. She will leave the pride to mate. She may also just go in search of food herself. She may just wander, but she will not go and join another pride. What can happen, though, is that the pride can get too large. And it's not sustainable. Too many mouths to feed can get a little bit aggressive, just too large, reach the maximum capacity for that pride, and they can break away, they can split. So they'll still be related, and they may still be slightly friendly towards one another, at least for that generation. But prides can split into separate prides, and we call this breakaway prides. But a lioness herself will not go and join another pride. Even if she tried to, it's highly unlikely another pride would accept her. I love it when you can still see the spots on the adult's legs. So Dravi and I are going to Bumble now. I think it's a good idea to head up to Jacana and spend some time with the rest of the pride.
Thanks, Lauren. Now we have here the dwarf mongoose. And actually, I haven't actually seen the dwarf mongoose in a while. And then all of a sudden, just around the corner, there is a few of them there in a termite mound, where I believe this is going to be a chosen mound for an evening or a night, because they are very much dino. They don't move at night, they only move by day. And before they got to make sure when they arrive into the mound, make sure that it's all safe. That's why they're all just going to be sitting there checking, if anything, watching them while they're arriving in that mound. For their own safety. So they are also hunted by eagles. Justin, so you're asking if they're larger than the meerkats? No, they're small. I think meerkats far too big compared to those. Although I haven't actually seen it physically, meerkats, but I know they're a lot bigger than this one, than dwarf mongoose. So out here, they are smallest of the mongoose. There's a dwarf mongoose. Dorsey, and so you're saying you love dwarf mongoose. They're actually cool creature. You won't go wrong loving them for sure. They are very much playful, just like an elephant when they are together, foraging during the day, visit sometimes humans' garden and play around gardens, dig around the garden, or look for crickets then. Insect. So you wouldn't worry about having them in the garden, then you know for sure. After that, you're going to have to repair the ground, but all the crickets will be taken. So they are quite cool. They're looking pretty much in the northern direction. Maybe there's more member because we only see for now 3. We're usually 15, probably 18 in the group. But there's alpha male and alpha, so they're pair breeding in this animal. So I'm gonna move on, check, but no leopard yet, trek even. So I'm gonna be sending you across to Pride Land with Talia to do an introduction, to say hello to everyone.
We've decided to take a break from driving around this afternoon to just enjoy the company of this young elephant bull who's happily picking through all the bits of vegetation, looking for some grass to eat. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me today is Gert, and we're here at Pridelands Conservancy, which is part of Baluli Game Reserve and the Greater Kruger National Park. Very exciting stuff. Now, we haven't had too much luck this afternoon. We've been looking at some of the sort of animals that are not as appreciated as the big cats. And hopefully we'll be able to see them a little bit later again. But for now, like I said, we're just going to have a little look at this elephant bull who's on his own. Now, the first thing that I notice when I look at him is that he's not grey, as all the books say elephants are supposed to be in colour. And that's just because he's had a dust bath. You can see he's used some red soil and he's tossed it all over his body, which has created this nice coloration. The contrast between the green and the orange is quite something. And then the other thing, if you just look, of course, just behind his eye, you can notice that there's a wet patch, which I'm sure most of you are familiar, and you've heard us talk about the temporal glands of elephants. And it's quite an important thing to know, because not only is it important to learn body language of all the animal species, but particularly elephants, something like that can tell you what kind of mood it is. So it's essentially an overstimulation of adrenaline, so it can show show a number of different things. There's an age-old myth that if an elephant is secreting from its temporal glands, it is in must. This is not true. That's one of the signs, yes, but it's not the only sign. And also females come in, or not, they don't come into must, but they also secrete from their temporal glands. So, you know, and they don't come into must. Anyway, so maybe he was chased around by some other big bulls and he's a bit stressed out. Well, who knows? There's definitely no shortage of food and water, so it can't be from that. But who knows, something could have happened to him along the way. Now, there's lots of sort of weeds and things that are growing up here in this open area, so he's not too happy with having to sort through it and try and find the grass. Hello, boy. Are you coming over to intimidate us? You can see. Yes, I'm watching you. Oh, you're so scary. Yeah, walk over there. He's going to do it again. Hi, boy. No. I'm sorry, I will have to sit up in a minute. Oh, do you know why he's actually come here? I don't think it's necessarily to intimidate us, but there's nice green grass, actual grass, that he can feed on. Hey, boy. You see a lot of the feather-top chloris. That grass is sort of the white stuff. He's also using it to swat the flies. But he has quite happily walked towards us. He's not very far away from us, so we'll just let him do his thing, and I'm sure in a couple of minutes, once he's had a few trunkfuls of grass in this area, he'll move on off to something else. Yes, it's much better to eat around here. There's less datura, and there's another type of plant that's growing here that I'm actually uncertain of, but it's completely taken over the area. Hey, big boy. You might even be able to hear him tearing the grass out of the ground. That's quite cool to hear that. You can also hear sounds like a rattling testicular making a bit of noise. I can't see if it is one. Anyways, in the distance it goes. You can see that liquid running. It's running all the way down from his temporal gland and almost into his mouth. I don't know if it tastes very nice. Quite amazing, and easily he does that. It's quite funny when you watch the little ones and how uncoordinated elephant calf is when it comes to pulling trunkfuls of grass out of the ground, and how as they're older it's just sort of second nature to them. It's really fascinating to watch those little ones grow up and figure out how to do something as basic as, I suppose, feeding. It's such a lovely sound. And at this time of the year you will see the elephant showing preference to eating grass while it's around. Even though all the animals are appreciative of the grass, I can tell you right now, I'm not. I haven't stopped sneezing. I have not seen the amount of grass in the Lowveld as we have this year. With all the rain, it's just been really, really good. Not good for anybody that has allergies, though. Chomp, chomp. I hope he doesn't go behind the car. That won't be too fun. It'll be difficult to film him then. Might actually be a tawny flank prinia that's making that noise, but I can't see where the bird is. Probably sitting on top of a tree somewhere, but unfortunately I'm not able to rotate my neck in that angle to have a look. Oh, you just dropped half of it out. I think what's happening is that as he's crunching into that grass, he's just chopping off the roots. And then that bit's not going to be very favourable to eat. You can see there's lots of soil on it too. He's not really doing much by... Normally elephants will just shake all the loose soil off, but perhaps it's a lot more compacted because of all the rain. Yes, those top ends are much, much tastier. Whoop. Very curious about that tree as well. Are you smelling us? Yep, we're still here. elephants, they do sweat. You'll see they'll sweat in certain parts of their body where we can sort of notice it. So at the back of their ears, you'll often see them sweating. That's why it's so important for elephants to cool themselves down by either flapping their ears or actually throwing lots of water over themselves, or as we see quite frequently here on Pridelands, they'll go for a swim. But they don't sweat as well as we as humans sort of sweat. So that's why it is important that they constantly actually use a lot of energy throughout the day trying to keep themselves nice and cool. Today this elephant is really lucky though, because it hasn't been very hot, although the sun did break through the clouds at one point. But now it's gone back to being a nice temperature. I've even put long pants on. Not that I needed them though, I think it was a bit dramatic. I just sort of haven't worn long pants for a while, so why not? Oh, he's turned away from us. But it's nice that he's so relaxed. You can't tell me that this elephant is upset with us if he's quite happy to have his rear end towards us. He does watch us every now and then. Got to keep a close eye on us, I suppose. Just as I'm doing to him, making sure he doesn't make any sudden movements, and he's probably hoping that I don't make any sudden movements either. There's also some other birds you might be able to hear in the distance. I don't know with a bit of a breeze, but there's some southern white-crowned shrikes flying around. There's actually quite a few of them, making quite a bit of noise. I think they're all happy as well with all the insects that are around. Lots of grasshoppers at the moment. We know how tasty grasshoppers are. Shall we carry on, Kat? I think so. We're going to probably go see what else we can find in this direction. Bye, boy. See you next time. And hopefully we'll bump into some interesting animals. I'm not sure what though. It would be nice to see a lion, but wishful thinking. Though there were supposedly some lionesses that crossed onto the property last night, or were coming in this direction, but with all the rain that we've had, those tracks are going to be washed away. We must have had over 50 mils. I'm not sure how much rain we had. Did you hear, Kat? No, I also didn't hear. But it was a lot. I think all the pans are going to be nice and full. Little sparrow. Lots of birds also about at the moment. Right, we're going to just carry on down this road and hopefully we'll have something else to show you not too long from now.
Sorry, everyone.
I don't know. We can cross with them.
Copy? Sorry, everyone. I'm just updating them. There's no other vehicle here at the moment with the lions, so I'm just letting everybody know that they're now mobile. Just the last time you saw us with the Talamatis, they got up. It was a very slow scenario. Lots of grooming, lots of yawning, toilet time, but they're awake. And of course, they're heading north. They made some soft contact calls and they're definitely heading in the direction of the other members of the Pride. Why they're split in the first place, I'm really not sure. But this happens. Lion Prides sometimes split. Sometimes individuals go off on their own together. Sometimes pairs go off, or sometimes little groups like this. But they're definitely going to reunite. So I was just making sure that there's space for us in Buffelshoek. Because in about 3 minutes' time, we're probably going to lose signal, but we'll follow them, we'll pop back up again, and we'll be on a completely different property. Now it's 5:30 here in South Africa, so it's definitely earlier for the lions to wake up than they normally would, and it's because of the conditions. It's cooler, it's darker in terms of the fact that we've got a lot of overcast clouds. And that's exactly why they're awake now. If it was a really, really hot summer's day, they would most likely still be flat. You can see they're waiting on each other. Come on, slow coach. We're just driving very, very slowly behind them and giving them space. There's not much room to maneuver on this road. sometimes it's better if you can get ahead of them, but in this situation we don't have a choice. So we're just going to follow them far behind.
We have come down the hill, and the wildebeest that we had a really tough look at from the top just through some grass is now a little bit easier to see. So this is a herd of mostly females. There's one male that I can see, and then there's even some little calves. So a lot of the plains game, as we call them, will have their calves at this time of year when the food for them is most abundant, when the grass is super lush and green after the rains. And these wildebeest timed it pretty well. Hey? These calves are now, I think, around 3 weeks old, between 2 and 3 weeks old. And there are 3 with this little herd. So all 3 of them are now lying down. One on the far left being groomed by its mother, I think. She's giving it a rub and a lick and maybe trying to coax it into getting up and moving again. And I was having a look just before you came on, and I think there's at least 2 females that are still pregnant here that might drop calves, and that maybe today, maybe in the next week, maybe in the next 2 weeks. But a very, very precious and beautiful time of year to be out in the bush, because we get to see all these very cute little young animals. We saw the elephant chasing those little, elephant walking down the road and disturbing those little piglets, the little warthog piglets. And I'm sure if you've spent some time on Wild Earth in the last couple of weeks, you would have seen all the little impala lambs that are around at the moment as well. So there really is a lot of young life, which is really, really sweet. These little wildebeest are really cute little animals. You can't really say the same about adult wildebeest, I don't think. Not in my opinion, anyway. Can be described as a few things, but cute's not one of them. The calves, however, they're pretty cute, though, and the fact that they're so brown is also quite sweet. Very, very different from the adults. If you have a look on the calves, on top of their skulls, where their horns will be one day, you can kind of start to see the little lumps appearing there. So they're born without horns, and those horns will grow through. I have just spotted a black rhino off to our left, so I'm going to try direct Odie to it. So Odie, it's on the left over here. Can you see it standing in the middle of the open field on the far hill? So as the hill rises on the far side, over there, directly across to our left. Yes, okay. So we're going to pan across here and see if we can get this rhino for you. The way that this rhino is holding its head, the shape of its back, even though it's probably a good couple 100 meters away, that is unmistakably a black rhinoceros. Very, very cool to see. Super rare. And where it's positioned at the moment, also quite unique. It's out in the open, which is really quite cool. You don't often see black rhino out in the open. I was mentioning earlier that they spend lots of times in the thickets. So maybe it's swapped place with the lions now. Lions in the thickets and the black rhinos out in the open. Black rhino are actually notoriously skittish as well, so to get close to them is quite tricky. But I do think this guy, there's a road not too far away from where he is. Anyway, significantly closer than we are now. I'm not sure if he is going to maybe run towards a thicket as we move closer though. So from here, for now, I think we'll take it in and make the best of this view. Wow, that's so cool though. So it could have been that one that I thought I saw lying down earlier in the grassland. I wasn't sure if it was a black or white rhino. And at the moment, just standing out in the open there. So if you look at the shape of the back of the rhino now, very much like a horse, the back, it's just a big kind of dip in the middle of the back. Now, a white rhino would have quite a substantial hump in the middle that you'd be able to see. The way it's holding its head as well, you can see the head's raised up. White rhino, most of the time, have their heads down closer to the ground. But I think in a little while we can try and move a little bit closer and see if we can get a better angle on him, because that would be quite incredible to see. Doesn't look like he's doing too much at the moment. Maybe slowly waking up from a bit of a sleep. Chavoni, I've never seen elephants and rhinos fighting. I've watched rhinos and rhinos fighting. I had a beautiful sighting once in Etosha in the north of Namibia at a watering hole quite late in the evening. They've got big floodlights. And I watched 6 or 7 black rhino come down to drink, which was absolutely mesmerizing. And they were having a bit of a rev and a bit of a go at each other when I watched them. And I've watched elephants chase hippos before. But I think for the most part, the elephants are the biggest, and everyone else knows that. So everyone else that knows that they should probably move out the way if an elephant decides it wants to walk through an area, even if they're standing in the way, just like we moved out of the way of that elephant earlier. Rhinos they're pretty well versed in the hierarchy of the bush. I think they'll move out pretty quickly for elephants. Rhino is still just standing in the middle of the field. I wonder if he's managed to smell or see something that he's not sure about, so he's just standing and watching. I can't see from here though, so what we're going to do is we'll leave you for a little bit. We'll send you off to Andrew with a big bird of prey, which is going to be a treat, and then when we're a little bit closer, if he doesn't run away, we'll come back to you and see if we can give you a bit of a closer view of what's happening on that side.
Thank you very much. Hope you get right there with this black rhino. Here we got a Bartolo eagle sitting in that very dry wood, but looking away from us right now. And I'm not sure what's it's happening, because it looks like a 2 male in the area, where it's actually slightly common or uncommon to see 2 male together sometimes, because then it's a fight. And when I looks like they're all fully grown, unless if there is something that died in the area. Then of course that would make sense when they can perched, waiting for anything, hope to feed on whatever remain of the carcass. And they're actually one of the beautiful birds out here. And when you look at their face, it's red beak, red legs, and they're fully growing. All you see black and brown at the top. The females, a lot of white. But you would see the way we're looking at now, tip end of these wings, then it's a lot of black then. So it's not in a female, it's in a male. They hunt by flying right up in the sky, searching. They can also feed on ground, birds, eggs, carrion. Fishes is possible. So I'm going to leave them, carry on with my search, and I'm going to be sending you across to Lauren with something exciting.
It's all very tense. The Talamati, they were stalking the impala, but they've been spotted, absolutely been spotted. The impala have ran, but what that does tell us is that they're hungry. They tried, but I think there was just too many impala. That was a really large herd, just as Sydney's Dam, and they're crossing over. You see where that lion is right now? It's now stepping into Buffelshoek. There's one impala, Davi. You see that one? Just right there. You just had it. Oh, they are not happy. They're challenging the lions. They're snorting. We can't hear it from here. It's quite a distance. But they're alarm calling. Oh. That's what I just love about impala. When you see your predator, stand your ground. Okay, Davi, shall we try and get closer to make sure we don't lose the lions? Ron, you know, impalas do that a lot, and that's what I love about them. When they see the predator, they face them head on, they alarm call, and they stand their ground, and that's what I admire so much about them. And normally once they do this, the predator backs off, and I think the lions are backing off. They know it's not going to... Oh, one's... You good here? One's interested. But Ron, I agree, impala are so impressive when they face the predators like that. They do it for lions and leopards, but they normally don't behave like that for wild dogs. They normally run for dogs. There's no time. There's no time to stand your ground. Wild dogs hunt by coursing, whereas lions and leopards ambush their prey, stalk their prey. I wonder if they're going to the dam to drink. I think we could just maybe turn this corner a little bit and see if they're heading down to the dam. You get a nice view of them from here. The impala have all scattered. But the guinea fowl are there. They're going to get a nasty fright. No, they're not going for a drink. They're hungry, and what's remarkable is they know exactly where the rest of the pride is. They know where to go. Now, before I follow them, I'll have to get on the radio, I'm afraid. We must be on the radio when we cross into other properties. So I'll need to ensure I do that before I go any further ahead. Mel, can I just check you're still there? This is a little bit of a strange spot for signal. It always has been. Copy. She is still there. I'm actually surprised we've got signal here. Overjoyed. Sydney's Dam is always a little bit of a black spot for some reason. We don't know why. Mel, I do need to get on that radio, I'm afraid. We may lose visual of them. The sooner I get on and chat to people, the better. Okay, so we're going to send you all across to Yapi at Ngala as I get on the radio and navigate this sighting.
So we have just gone back to the area where we had the wild dogs this morning, and unfortunately it looks like they've moved, which isn't unexpected with weather like this. The wild dogs would have definitely tried to attempt a hunt if something made its way through there, and by the looks of it there's quite a few animals, general game, impala, wildebeest, that's gone past that area earlier today. Now, while we were there having a quick look at the tracks and see which direction they came, we also heard a lion that sounded like it was facing off with some hyenas, somewhere just off the road. Now, unfortunately, due to the heavy rain we've had, we do not go off the road at this point. We usually give it a couple of days, because otherwise the impact that we might have with the weight of the vehicle is something that we'd like to avoid. But we've gone further to the eastern part. We're going to check some clearings up ahead where there's a lot of impala and wildebeest in this area. So we'd like to see if maybe we get lucky with the wild dogs around this area. By now, with the cool weather we're experiencing, I'm sure they're already busy hunting. We had 1 or 2 drops fall just now, but nothing too serious. You can even see some blue sky in the distance. Now the tricky part with this is we're not sure exactly when those wild dogs would have moved, and by this time they could have covered quite a bit of distance, in which case it will be literally looking for a needle in a haystack. So we got to go with our gut feeling, and my gut feeling is that when they're hungry, they'll look for some large herds of impala. And while we look for the wild dogs, we'll send you over to Phinda, where they're having a closer view of a black rhino.
Welcome back to Phinda, everybody. We have managed to get significantly closer to this rhino now. And you can see it really isn't actually as open as it looked like it was from the other side, but is open nonetheless. The grass is quite long, so when he's walking with his head down now, quite tricky to see. But he's really walking right towards us, which is absolutely magical. The wind's blowing from behind him, so he won't be able to smell us until he moves past us. This is a bull. So he's on his own, slowly feeding on little shrubs. A lot of these bushes here are actually burnt old bushes, and the sugars have concentrated in those branches, so he'll be snacking on some of those. And then there's also a lot of new shoots and sprouts coming through on some of the slightly larger little shrubs. But this is about as good a black rhino sighting as one could ever hope and dream for. If you look at the shape of his ears, they're a little bit more rounded than white rhino. It's got a little bit of a nasty cut on across his ribs there. I don't know if you can see that. And if you look quite closely at his back, every now and again you'll see a whole lot of flies buzzing around. So it might be some sort of skin disease that's carried by flies. There's a skin disease among rhino that is transmitted by flies, so quite likely that that's what that is. But very, very chilled. I think the wind is most definitely in our favor here. If it was blowing the other way, if me talking and our scent was blowing onto him, I reckon it would be a completely different story here. Since it is a male though, they do hold territories here in KwaZulu-Natal, so he'll be slowly walking around marking his territory. We might see him, if we manage to stick with him for a little while, we might see him spray. One of the ways that rhino mark their territory, black rhino. We'll often also see them kicking over small shrubs, so they'll often spray a little tree or a small bush and then rub their feet through it. And by doing that, they get a lot of the scent on the bottom of their feet as well. And then as they carry on walking, they drop that scent off all along the way. Oh my goodness, now he's turned towards us. This is going to be magical. If he just keeps coming out from behind that bush, you can really quite clearly see the back. And when he lifts his head up now, if for a brief moment you get to see what his mouth shape looks like, you'll see a very V-shaped top lip and a very narrow bottom jaw. The black rhino, also known as a hook-lipped rhinoceros, whereas white rhino are square-lipped rhinoceros. White rhino's mouths are very much adapted for bulk grazing on grasses, and their mouths are adapted as such. They kind of look like the entrance to a lawnmower. Oh, so this rhino is kind of walking around from shrub to shrub, but he does seem to be coming in a general direction towards us. He's, I'd say, maybe 40 meters away now, maybe a little bit less. Slowly making his way this way. I think he might come out now and give us... Oh, there, he's spraying now. Just like I said. Kieran, this wound that he's got is not threatening at all. It's not gonna... Might be a little bit uncomfortable, but it's not gonna inhibit him from going about his daily life in any way. It's not life-threatening. So we won't treat this wound. Our rhino do all get dehorned. I'm sure you noticed that he doesn't have much of a horn on the front of his face. And that's obviously for poaching reasons. But if a rhino, because they are endangered and threatened, needs medical attention of some sort, with something that's happened to them that threatens their ability to survive, they will be treated, yes. It was really nice to get to see him spray that bush. It might be the dominant bull in this area, so we're kind of on top of a little hill now. And he's walking down and over. So you might go into, there's quite a thick, like a dry riverbed at the bottom of the little valley here. He's not really walking in any sort of general direction. He's almost done a full 360-degree circle now. He's just slowly feeding and, yeah, marking his territory every now and again. You can see on the back of him is also caked in mud. So black rhino, like a lot of the other animals on our reserve, wallow. Black rhino, elephants, warthogs, they all come out all different colors all the time because they're wallowing in different mud colors. This black rhino now looks a bit like a red rhino. It's been wallowing in red mud. Can't really see, but on the road, about 500 meters in front of us on the other side of the hill, the road goes very red again. But it does look like he's now wandering off back into the thicket. So nice and lovely to see a view like that. I really wasn't holding thumbs that we were going to manage to get this close. I thought we might be able to get a little bit closer. But he does look like he's wandering off now, so we're going to carry on and see what else we can find for you.
My favorite animal is a leopard, purely because I just think they are just the epitome of feline grace and power, and the way they can move about in any environment and remain hidden until they want to be seen, I just find incredibly intoxicating, and they're amazingly beautiful.
Catch up with the guides daily here on Wild Earth.
My name is Lauren, and I'm currently working in Djuma Private Game Reserve here in South Africa. I love answering your questions during the live safaris. It's my favorite part. It feels like you're on the vehicle with me, and I'm able to teach you exactly what you want to know. If you want to ask a question on Wild Earth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, you must go to the live safari page and ask your question below the live feed.
An ever-increasing part of the global population is losing its connection with nature. Wild Earth is here to reduce people's stress and anxiety, allowing you to escape into nature even just for a few hours a day. However, Wild Earth is expensive to run, and we need help from you to keep this ship going. Wild Earth Explorers gives you the opportunity to be a part of a program that supports the sharing of nature with the world. Have you been watching Wild Earth and dreamt of being right there on safari with one of the guides? Well, now you can. Wild Earth is offering you a chance to buy a ticket to dream. You or a friend can hop on board a live Wild Earth show and join our guide on safari. The ticket is redeemable at any of our locations, anytime in the future. Only a limited number of tickets are available, so don't wait. Get your ticket now and start dreaming. Terms and conditions apply.
And just have a look at that beautiful sun's rays coming through the clouds. And here we have a wildebeest European, as well as a group with younger ones. And now I've noticed in between there's a few different ages. Now we started seeing the first wildebeest calves around Ngala at about December. And you can see some of these ones are a little bit older, like that one. And then the one off to the left is a little bit younger. In fact, quite a bit younger. It looks like that one might have... Well, maybe not that one. There was another one earlier. It looked like it might have been born in the last few days only. Now, these wildebeest have been calling for quite a while now. An alarm call. And you can see some of them are still feeding, which means that they're not seeing something specifically that they're calling at. They were all facing different directions as well. Now, my guess is at this point that there might be a chance that they are picking up on the scent of the wild dogs somewhere around this area. Like I said, this would be a good area for the wild dogs to come and look for prey to hunt. And what better to go for than these young wildebeest calves? They can't protect themselves. Like that little one, that's the little one I was looking for. You can see he doesn't even... Still so young, he has to lay down every time the mother stops to feed. Now, I've noticed when she moves and he moves with her, or she, I can't tell the sex at this stage, it still moves in between the mother's legs at points, so the mother's walking quite carefully. Now, one might think that there's no chance for a little wildebeest like this. But surprisingly, they're quite quick on their feet, even at this age already. And with this herd around, I've seen once or twice before where wild dogs did attempt to get to a baby wildebeest. But the herd is quite good at protecting them, and they usually form like a circular formation with the little ones right in the middle. And they try and chase the dogs off. The larger wildebeest will run at the dogs once they get too close and make sure that they stay away. But they don't break too long from the formation. That's when the dogs will have their chance, when the little ones are exposed. And you can still hear some alarm calls, but now it mostly seems like they've settled down and they started feeding. Don't even see one of them with their heads up. I'm not sure exactly I got that name correctly. Goose lover, if I'm not mistaken. But there are quite a few calves around at the moment. You can see, excuse me, it's horse lover. Horse lover, there is quite a few different calves. This one and the small little one laying down that we can only see the head of. Now that one, I'm suspecting is only a couple of days old, like maybe within the last few days. The one at the back, I can already see a little bit of a change on the coat. Now, generally speaking, that change of the color of the coat starts happening at around about 2 months of age. And judging from when we started seeing the first, it means that that older one could possibly be between 1 and 2 months of age already. I've started seeing some horns protruding at the top of the head. A little one like that is already capable of understanding the situation of danger, and if the herd has to move, it is very able to keep up with it. And this is the perfect area for the wild dogs to come to hunt. But it's also a very good area for these wildebeest. There's lots of impala around which we can't see at the moment. You can see it's quite open, so a large space to see if there's any danger coming. It's right near the Timbavati, so it's a big floodplain essentially, with all the good grasses and food growing in this area. There's these seasonal pans scattered throughout this area, where these animals can go for water during the day and if they need also to cool down. I heard a lion calling not too far from here not long ago. So all around a great area to be in if you're waiting for something exciting to happen. And we'll make our way over to that side a little bit later on. But for now, that sun coming through the clouds, with the wildebeest relaxed and feeding in front, it's quite a good spot. Another creature that we often see in these parts is hyena. We often see quite a lot of hyena. There used to be 1 or 2 hyena dens in this area, and the hyenas often move to the clearings during the daytime. And they would on occasions also pose a threat to some of these animals. And it always makes me wonder, these wildebeest, especially the male, which would normally stick around this area almost all year long, they must have the know-how to thwart predators quite well.
This is all very tense here. The 4 lions that we have from the Talamati Pride, they're trying to hunt. The zebra is exactly what they are after, but yet they know they're visible. The zebra spotted them before they spotted the zebra. The impala have been alarm calling. It's all very tense. You can feel the tension in the air. The lions know what they want. The four of them could easily take down 1 zebra. That's definitely not too big a challenge. But, oh, well spotted, Davy. A brave female. But they know they're visible, and that's the issue. They can't rely on that element of surprise. They can't ambush. Everybody has seen them. Oh, look. But one female is determined. It's not impossible. The zebra are relying very heavily on the impala. They're sticking very closely together. Not too alert over this side. The lines have gone flat. They've maybe lost vision. Oh, the lioness is up, Davy. Look, she's using the vegetation. You see, she's positioning herself behind this bush. Can't quite see what it is from here, small apple leaf or something. And they're all going to start to move slowly. They really do blend into the background. If they play their cards right, they could actually change tactic, change course, and sneak up on the zebra. But they're interested. Oh, yes. Now, all it would take would be to get the zebra on the ground. Once the zebra's on the ground, it's not easy for them to get back up again. They haven't reunited with the others yet. They've been distracted. And there's an elephant there as well, Davy. It's behind another vehicle, but there's actually impala, elephant, and zebra in that one area. Excuse the vehicle. I love it when lions do this. Victor, you just took the words right out of my mouth. That's exactly what I was going to say. I love when lions do this because they're planning. They're all looking in the same direction. They're all listening. They're all smelling. Everybody's got one thought on their mind here, and it's the same thought. They're a unit. They're a team. I just love that. And they intrinsically know that if they were to go for a zebra, it's going to take all four of them. The situation's not right. It's a long distance to cover. They need to use the cover of the vegetation and get closer, close that gap. And the elephant's having a jolly good time. I mean, he's not fussed. But the impala and zebra are fussed. All the impalas in the area have heard the alarm calls. They all know that a threat in some shape or form is present. Everybody knows. They're actually all looking in the wrong direction. I wonder if they can't see. Oh, they're nervous. But I don't think they can see them. In fact, they can't. Look at all that vegetation that's in the way. But they've heard all the alarm calls. They know something's wrong. But there's lots of evidence that suggests impalas can not forget, but relax quite quickly. Which means that once the threat appears to be over, they can relax, and it almost appears as if they forget, but that's not the right word. They just go back to a sort of normal state. Brooke, I have never tried impala or zebra, I'm afraid. Davi, do you have any input on that question?
I would guess zebra. Tastes better.
Davi said he would guess zebra, but he's not tried zebra. I cannot answer that, I'm afraid. I try to be vegan, but I think I would label myself vegetarian. It's rather tricky out here in the bush. So that question is definitely not the question for me. But maybe Andrew would have a better response to that one. Okay, they're on the move now. But they're definitely going to hunt tonight. I'm sure if it doesn't happen during this drive, we're going to wake up with the news that the Talamatis have hunted something. They're just aware that this scenario was not right. They're too visible because they're walking along a road because it's easier. The impalas were alarm calling. Everybody's nervous. Not enough cover. They knew it was not going to be successful. Yes, let's follow them. I really want to see them reunite with the rest of the Pride. Jacana Dam's just up ahead. It's really not far, and I believe that's where the rest of the Pride are, if they haven't moved. So hopefully we're going to see them all come together. And if Davi just shows you up there in the sky is something we call blue sky. Can you believe it? That leaves a lot of promise for tomorrow. So I'm going to follow these two Talamatis, and I believe Andrew is at one of my favorite places in the world, the Misikaya.
Thank you very much, Lauren. Yes, indeed. We're at the Aina Den here. And it looks like one of the adults lying in the open area, on a slightly open, when I'm saying the open area. And this is where they have made a clear spot for themselves during a playing time. And it looks like we have a ribbon, I think. It's quite a little young one that's running around here. And these young ones still busy drinking, still since we got here. And the rest of the young one, their mother haven't yet arrived into the den, and that's why they have to wait. They don't really cross-drink from different mother. Here's another one coming up. So Clay asking how many hyena dens are active in Djuma at the moment. This is a very hyena dam that is active at the moment and that I know of. But it's quite a few older ones that they often reactivate, which there's a two on the eastern side of us, we're close to Torchwood boundary. And there's a two on the western side of here. And there's another one north, close to Beverly boundary, or two of them in fact. Those are not been used for a while. And there's another one just as northeast of Djuma itself. A few of these dams that are not actually in use at the moment. So this one is very much one that it's in use. Now there's a two coming out of there. There's another car that's actually parking on the other side. And this one, they're actually playful, the young one, always visiting, all getting comfortable close to vehicles. And I also trust that they have an experienced female that she's here at the moment. So, oh, looks like they ran across there. I don't know what spooked them, but is that maybe they are very much active, whatever makes sound. So I'm going to stay put, yeah?
We have come along a road here to check next to a couple of watering holes to see what's happening. And up in this quite old dead tree, we found 2 eagles. So you can see as they're turning left, their heads around, you can see the head on the right and the head on the left. And so this might be a pair. They are quite small. They're not massive eagles, and from here you can't really see, but the tail should be quite rectangular and in shape, quite long. These are 2 little Wahlberg's eagles, not uncommon on Punda. And in this afternoon light now, really, really beautiful view of them. There is a nest, a Wahlberg's eagle nest, not far from here, maybe, I'd say less than a K away. And as it starts cooling down now, a lot of the bigger raptors will start finding their roosting spots to spend the night. So when eagles aren't sitting and looking after chicks on the nest, they often won't necessarily roost near the nest site. And I was explaining earlier how vultures and some other large birds use thermals and the rising heat to power a lot of their flight. As it starts cooling down into the late afternoon, those thermals start getting weaker and weaker, and flying around consumes a lot more energy. So the animals or the big birds will start finding perches to sit on, where they'll probably spend the rest of the afternoon and the evening, and then only maybe tomorrow morning, when it starts heating up again, they'll take flight. Marky, that's it's a tough call. I love raptors, and lots and lots of birds of prey. They're arguably my favorite animal in the bush. It's a tough call. I have done a fair amount of work, conservation work and filming work on martial eagles, and they really are magnificent, stunning birds. Coming from the Cape, Verou's eagles are another favorite of mine. And then, of course, we've got that southern banded snake eagle, which is quite rare and endemic to this area. So between those 3, I don't know if I could pick one. We saw a crowned eagle this morning actually as well, and they are absolutely magnificent birds. But I haven't been able to spend too much time actually sitting and watching crowned eagles. They are quite tricky to find generally, and we don't see them that often. We actually went on a little bit of a detour yesterday afternoon to try find an old crowned eagle nest that I was hoping was still active. But unfortunately it looked like the nest had blown out the tree. It was quite an old nest in an old dead fig tree right at the top. And when we went to go have a look yesterday, it looks like it's no longer there. So another really, really beautiful bird, the crowned eagle. Not to take away at all from these Wahlberg eagles, which are absolutely magnificent in their own right. We are for now going to carry on moving. We're going to send you across to Lauren, who's got some lions for you guys, and we're going to see if we can find any other animals in this truly, truly beautiful afternoon light. We still haven't moved, we're still sitting here. It looked like one of these birds was about to take off actually. Now I'm not so sure. But sitting on quite a precarious little branch there. You can see every now and again they've just started preening now. So straightening out their feathers. Just see a little tuft of a crest on the back of the top one's head. And that one on our near side keeps looking across this way, giving us a view of his face. And we're actually just sitting here now. I think the sun has just disappeared behind a big bank of clouds. But the light that's been filtering through has been absolutely stunning. As well as using the thermals to kind of fly, these smaller eagles, in particular the Wahlberg's eagles, will use what we call slope soaring quite a lot as well. And what that means is they'll use the uplift created by winds hitting slopes. So as a wind blows across the landscape, it encounters slopes like little hills, mountains, things like that. And then it rises up the slope, and these Wahlberg's eagles will often use those slopes and the rising wind that comes over them to soar and to gain height, which is a really cool thing to watch because they often are quite low down to the ground, and they'll be kind of flying up and down along a ridge side of a mountain. Faroese eagles are also really well known for doing that. Okay, let's try head across to Lauren again, and I want to go. Okay, sounds like Lauren's having some technical difficulties on her side. So we'll just stay with these Wahlbergs for a little bit longer. You can see a very characteristic little bit of yellow on the bill. Not too dissimilar actually from another common bird we get here, the yellow-billed kite. And they migrate down here in the summer. and fill the skies. You can see them quite often along roads. The yellow-billed kites are quite adapted to scavenging, so they specialize in hunting flying insects mostly. So lots of alates or flying termites. All right, let's try go across to Lauren one more time, and she's got some lions for you guys.
That was probably my most favorite moment with the Talamatis. I've never seen anything like it. Darby will show you just on the other side of the dam, way under that tree there. I'm not sure what tree it is from this distance. The rest of the pride were there. When they saw the 4 members come into the area, they ran at full speed to meet with the others. There was so much joy, there was so much tenderness. Oh, it's so, so lovely. It's all died down a bit now, I'm afraid. They have gone to their usual state of being a lion. But you can see we're now at Jacana Dam. They knew exactly where the rest of the pride were. They were contact calling. They just followed the sounds. It's easy for them. That would have been a lot more tricky for a human to follow those sounds. One, we probably wouldn't hear them from that distance. And 2, human sense of direction with sound is not as accurate. We know the rough direction. Oh, dear me. We know the rough direction. It came from over that side. But to actually pinpoint the exact location where that sound came from, it's not easy. But of course, it's easy if you're a lion. Oh, that was so tender. And that just builds on the question I was asked earlier. I think it was from V. You asked what I like most about lions, and it's that. You shouldn't anthropomorphize too much. You also shouldn't anthropo-denial. But that was just joy and happiness. There's really nothing else you could put that down to. The fact that they've been separated, I don't know for how long. And the minute they saw each other, so lovely. I wonder if one of the Avokas is here. It would be Darkmane, of course. I don't see any sign of him. But he could be flat somewhere. He's normally not too far behind the females. Excuse me, bless me. Kylie, every species has a unique social structure. If they were all the same, they wouldn't survive or thrive out here. And for lions, their social structure is to be in a pride. It's a group unit. It's very cohesive, and that's why they're so successful. That's their sort of unique, specialized adaptation to being a predator out here. For a leopard, it's been very stealthy and quiet and solitary. You're able to climb up trees, ensure your kill doesn't get stolen. For cheetahs, you can run fast, faster than all the other land mammals, outrun everybody. For dogs, it's the pack. It's the pack life. Everything is about the pack. And for lions, everything is about the pride. Not only do they have power, they're a lot bigger and muscular than leopards and not quite as stealthy, but it's all about the pack. That's their social structure. The pride, sorry, I just said pack. I'm thinking about dogs' pride. And of course, for males, it's slightly tricky. There's sub-adult males here in this pride. And once they reach a certain age, they get pushed out by the females. And we call this being ousted. So because there's 3 males, most likely they will go on to form a coalition together. They'll be related, and when they're ousted, it won't be too rough on them. They'll probably band together as young males in their own little bachelor unit, And slowly but surely they'll form a coalition and they'll get ready to, well, set up a territory in time. It's all about the social structure in lions. For older males, it's a coalition, and for the females, it's a pride. They could survive a nomadic existence, absolutely. But would they thrive? Who knows? It's far better for females to be part of a pride. They allo groom, they allo suckle. All the cubs can drink from all the lactating females. It doesn't have to be mom. It helps protect the cubs. There's normally always a babysitter, always a nanny. They can synchronize their breeding. Normally a lot of the females will start mating at the same time, have litters consecutively, sort of after one another. Instead of a leopard, one mother looking after the cubs, you have many females who can all contribute to the rearing of the offspring. Isn't that such a lovely scenario? I think this has to be my favourite Talamati sighting yet. What was that in the water behind it? Did you see that? I also missed that. I'm not sure what made that splash. Oak tree, I'm not sure. I would have to do a body count. We have got some in front of us. It's just not as pretty because they're not silhouetted by the water. We do have 3 here. 1, 2, 3. I'm scared to move the vehicle in case we lose signal. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Cuckoo. We should have 14. That's the females and the sub-adults. That's not including if there's an avoca nearby. So I think they are all together. But I can only count 10. What about you, Darby?
16.
So in answer to your question, if we can only see 10, then possibly not. I don't know where the others would be. It's hard sometimes when the vegetation's so thick. But there's 5 adult females in the Talamati Pride, 9 sub-adults, of which have a different, well, there's a range of ages, and there's 6 females and 3 males within the sub-adults. And it's between 1.5 years to 2 years. I'm just going to get my binos out and see if I can spot signs of the others. I don't spot any signs of them, but I don't imagine they'll be too far. Okay, we're going to sit here for as long as we can, but now we're going to send you guys across to Devon with some rhino.
Alrighty, so quite a nice little contrast here. We've got a little crash of white rhino. You can see that distinct hump in the middle of their back that I was telling you the black rhino doesn't have earlier. And also these animals are being a lot more social than black rhino. In particular that one we saw, but also in general they are a lot more social. These youngsters here are jousting a little bit, so they're pushing each other around. You can see those two kind of sub-adults play fighting a little bit. Quite normal for young rhino to be messing around a little bit, having a little bit of a game. These two are kind of headbutting each other a little bit. You can see, oh, definitely a game though. One might just go to sleep. So the animal on the far left is adult female. Most likely one of these rhino right close by to her are her calf. And then there's what I think from seeing these rhino before is a pair of bachelors. So two slightly older males that are not quite dominant or fully grown yet, that are hanging around this female and her calf. The calf and the one sub-adult male is just rubbing up against each other now. Very, very playful. The mother was pushing the same sub-adult off a little bit earlier. But you can see they're quite used to close contact, being near to each other. Yeah. And then far back down in the bottom of the valley, a couple 100 meters further on, there's another, I saw 4. There might be 5. So this is obviously where the white rhino are hanging out today. Very special and precious to see so many rhino in one small little area. Oh, a couple head flicks happening around there. Victor, no, black and white rhino don't breed with each other. Their behavior and personalities are very, very different. So they don't mingle much. I don't think I've ever seen them together. Definitely not in as close proximity as these white rhino are now. They will occupy kind of the same general area, maybe. So these hills, these rolling hills on the side here with the thickets in the bottom. There might be black rhino in the bottom and white rhino up on the slopes here. But we don't really see them interacting with each other very often, if ever. These two are really having at it though. The game's in full force now. There's a lot of pushing and backing and forthing that's happening. Every now and again, kind of a low thud comes through from when the base of the horns touch or they go crashing over a tree, which is quite cool to see. Oh. So these are 2 young males now in the middle of the road. I think those are the 2 bachelors, and then the 2 on the right are the mother. You can see the adult female is quite significantly bigger than the other three. Just going to move a little bit forward here so we can get some of the grass out the way. In terms of being nervous around vehicles, these white rhino are much more relaxed than the black rhino are. And then there's an pushing and backing and forthing and shoving's carrying on. But you can see it's very much not like an aggressive game that's happening there. When there's aggression among animals in the bush, the interaction is a lot more intense than it is right now. This is very much a little playful back and forth that's happening. You can also see the way that they hold their heads when they're not playing is their heads are really close to the ground and they are feeding. So the mother is now browsing on grass. In between games, the youngsters are browsing on grass as well. Grazing, I should say, rather. And grass grows on the ground. So, oh, there's the mother's getting a little bit irritated now. We are going to carry on moving, seeing if we can find any more nocturnal animals, which will be quite exciting. But we'll be sure to come straight back across to you if we find anything else.
So we stopping here, looking at this very spiky hook thorn that you can see there, and it's actually now regrowth of these acacia trees that they are actually a favorite for most browsers, such as a giraffe, kurus, and nyalas, those type of animals. And then, but seeing how they actually now figured out, or how they manage avoid these very hooky thorns, it's incredible. When most of the time a tree like this, they in some area they get disturbed so much they never have a chance of growing much, because then they get visited quite a lot by any browsers. So this is one of the acacias that it's always loved to be browsed by most of the antelope, where sometimes we know we've got such a big amount, huge tall trees, you know, those are already too big, where this one is still trying to get up, slowly growing, but it's probably going to take so many over years until it's in a decent tree though. Acacia nigracis, no fronds. It's amazing reddish color that's taking place, so that it shows that it's still wanting to grow up so much faster. Hopefully this raining season before the end.
The predator's starting to get marginally more active. It's getting darker here, and unfortunately we will have to leave when it starts to get dark. But no additional members have joined, so maybe we can do another count. You can still only see 10. There's a few other lions that are not in this puddle. We saw the female with the injury earlier, and it's definitely healing. Those two sort of open wounds on her legs. It's healing very well. That's contagious behavior. Happens in humans too, of course, but it's very common in lions. Once one yawns, they all yawn. Once one starts to groom, they all groom. It's a big yawn. All sorts of birds calling around us. We had the spurfowls earlier, the guinea fowls, the franklins, hornbills, Egyptian geese. Sorry, Mel, one more time with that question from Glenn.
Can you describe the smell?
Oh, I can hear the bubbling casinas starting as well, little froggies. I just smell a fresh water body, Glenn. Very organic, very earthy. You can smell the fresh water. The vegetation's very lush. And it just smells very lush. You know, that smell of damp soil.
There's a very big family of enrolled on quarantine.
Sorry about that. I think everybody knows the smell of damp soil. It just smells very earthy. I can't smell the lions. They actually don't have an odour tonight. They can do, if they've been feasting on a very large carcass. But otherwise, it just smells very fresh. The sound of the bubbling casino frogs is one of my favourite sounds of summer. It goes all through the night. And it literally sounds like bubbling. But I wonder if more rain tonight. The clouds look rather heavy. I think we are. There's something moving in from the west. So we're going to now, hopefully we'll be able to see them tomorrow with something that they may have or not.
So for the past few minutes, we've just come to sit at this watering hole. And we've been watching the hippos who haven't been too active. You can see every now and again they pop their heads up like that. And otherwise, we've just been sitting here with the sounds of the frogs and around. So we had no luck with the wild dogs, unfortunately. And we haven't found any fresher signs of them either. So what we've decided is to come down to this watering hole and sit and wait, and with some luck, the lion that we heard earlier might come past this area. We heard a lion interacting with some hyenas, and it sounded like it was not far from this particular area. My guess was that maybe something small was eaten, and that's why they fought over it. In which case, as it gets dark, maybe the animal decides to come down to come and have a drink of water. I also heard the lion call once after that. And that seems to have no effect on this hippo's business. And that's pretty amazing. Like often when we drive up to the watering holes here, we don't see the hippos. And all you see is that trail of little bubbles and a shimmer on the water where they've moved. And they can move quite quickly under the water. You can see it looks like they have just a gentle bite over the muzzle of the other one. And that's what they've been doing every time we saw them bring their heads up. The one had its mouth open across the muzzle of the other one. Now the hippos in this particular area, in this watering hole, a male hippo that's come in a while. The others come and go. We see trucks leave this watering hole often and then come back. It might be that maybe this is a new female that's wandered into this area. And you can see when it disappeared, almost no indication that they were here. Raphael, there are unfortunately no crocodiles in this particular watering hole. Yo, what a display of sound and teeth. But there are unfortunately no crocodiles in this dam. In fact, I have not seen one here ever since I've been on Ngala. And I don't know if there ever were. Crocodiles do move about quite a lot though. Especially if we have good rains like we've been having this season so far. Who knows, it's not impossible for one to wander from afar over towards this side. I've seen in the western part of the reserve we have 2 crocodiles at the moment that we know of, and those crocs have moved up and down quite a bit. On occasions you have more in that watering hole, and then other times you go there and you don't even see one. And cooler days like today with a little bit rainy weather, but where it's still humid enough or warm enough, you might find that crocodiles decide to move. And all we see on the opposite side is some elephant dung. Lots of large mammals that gets attracted to this watering hole to come and drink during the heat of the day. But over the last day since yesterday, when the clouds started rolling in and we started experiencing rain conditions, we haven't seen much movement of large animals around this area at the watering hole specifically. And I think That's why the hippos are also so active at the moment. They haven't really had lots of other animals come and disturb their peaceful day. Scar, these hippos will leave the water tonight to go and feed, and they will probably, it's difficult to say exactly which way they'll go, but they usually have very well-trodden, set-out pathways that follow. And not too far from where we are, there is a dry riverbed. In fact, there's a whole network of dry riverbeds just around this watering hole, which is where they wander off to and feed. They feed off the rough grasses on the banks of the riverbeds. And we often see their clear trails in the morning, and they move far. You'll be surprised. I followed a hippo's tracks for more than 4 kilometers away from this watering hole, back towards the watering hole one morning. Even with the little ones, the mother and the little one move quite far. You usually find that they'll split up, they move on their own when they go feed. And then before the sun is up early morning, they make their way back towards the water because that's where they feel safest and where they're most comfortable, and also to hide from the day's heat. And I'm sure, looking at the activity that these two are showing us at the moment, I think they might start to move at least towards the edge of the water within the next half an hour. Minutes. It's interesting, you hear them breathing out quite regularly. When they're active like this, they often just draw in short breaths, just for their head to dip under the water and come back up. There we go. See that hippo's already starting to move towards the shallower side of the watering hole. Ooh, what a beautiful yawn. And some splattering of dung with the tail. Now that is a territorial display, as well as the yawn or the gape, to show off those big tusks. And that's why I'm thinking this is a male hippo. The other one is a female. Maybe what we were seeing might be a little bit of courtship going on there. It looks like he's moving back towards the deeper part. But the same way he marked now, he will also, once he moves out of the water, along the pathways that he'll use tonight. LP, are there hippos in every dam in Ngala? No, they are not. The hippos generally prefers the larger bodies of water, like this particular one. And since 2016, we've only really started seeing the levels of water that we have in a good season return over the last year or two. These hippos need to have a substantial amount of water that can cover their entire body, especially when it's hot during the day. Look, they do go, as a last resort, they'll go to smaller puddles of mud or watering holes, but they usually try and wallow it out so that it's deep enough for them to at least cover most of their body with the moisture. So a lot of the dams, watering holes, especially the man-made ones, they are a little bit small and therefore we don't see hippos in them. Unless it's an extreme case during the height of the drought where you might see other bull hippos get pushed out by the stronger, more dominant males, and then as they move off into a new area, they have to use whatever they can find. So, I think it's getting a little bit dark now, so I think what we might do is we might switch over to the infrared light. Because if we're really lucky, we might actually see these hippos emerge from the water. And you can see, look at that hippo, you can see it's very carefully scoping the situation out, and suddenly they've become very quiet. It is a bit of it's a very this moment for them, because they know that they might be, even though it's such a large animal, when it's exposed outside of the water, it doesn't have the same animals like lions or hyenas might pose to it. You can see they're carefully listening out, anything approaching, carefully looking around. Hi. You can see it's slowly turning its head, not completely out yet, because they know very well that when they're big enough, it'll be easy to spot for anything nearby. I find it amazing though that they've just suddenly become dead quiet. And this is a process that often takes quite a few minutes. It's not necessarily something that they make the decision and then they move. They actually do wait quite a while, and sometimes it takes a lot longer than one might think. There's another yawn by the male. Just to show off his weapons, so to speak, but also to impress that female. I think sit with them, see, maybe we get lucky and we do get to see them move out.
just pretended to be dead. Oh, that was amazing. I can't. How do I? That is hands down the coolest.
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth Daily.
Hi, my name is Taylor McCurdy and I'm coming to you from Eco Training here on Pridelands. My most favorite animal in Africa has to be the elephant that's behind me, and this is Kumo, you'll meet him. But elephants just in general, they're really sociable, they're always doing something, and I love to see the interactions between the members of the herd.
Catch up with the guides daily here on Wild Earth. For the month of January 2021, we are offering a chance to win a unique Wild Earth expedition to the magnificent Tswalu Kalahari. From the ancient Kortai's Koranenberg Mountains to the southern Kalahari's red sand dunes, Tswalu offers what travelers crave most: space and time. The winner will explore this landscape in a vehicle, on foot, or on horseback, with a chance to go behind the scenes with Wild Earth and of course meet the meerkats. The prize includes a 3-night stay for you and a friend at the luxury Motse Lodge, including flights from either Johannesburg or Cape Town. Open to all Wild Earth explorers who have signed up before the end of January 2021. Terms and conditions apply.
Cool, so we now on the look again, but you see we got actually lights already, spotlight. This is where we're going to be looking around for nocturnal animals, specifically Notalamba. We believe that she is still going to be around here, so that maybe we couldn't find her or know exactly where she's gone to. So this is how we're going to be searching around with the spotlight, trying to pick up some reflection of their eyes. If she didn't kill anything, then she might probably come out in the dark. Started to move about, hunt. Where also sometimes they can do a lot of movement during the day due to weather is great, where it's great today, so if she was on move or she did a lot of move, then she probably done a lot of hunting if she didn't kill anything last night, or beside that scrub hare she was seen feeding on. Which was nothing there, it was just a little bit of a snack and that scrub hare, and it was done, I think. And she should probably look for another hunt after that. So I'm going to continue shining around here, see if we come right or get lucky. I'm going to be sending you across to Devil with the landscape.
Welcome back to Punda once again. We've stopped here with an absolutely magnificent sunset. The view is spectacular. So I thought it would just be a nice opportunity to sit, listen to some of the sounds that we're hearing now. There's lots of crickets, and take in the view for a little bit. We really do have a spectacular view out over the rolling hills with the bottom of the Lubombo mountain range here, and it's just spectacular. There are some bees buzzing around us up here as well. You can hear the insects and their wings flapping. What a beautiful, beautiful scene we've got here. We are going to leave you now and send you across to Ngala, where they've got a watering hole with some interesting creatures inside it.
So, we are currently looking at the hippos, of which one have already moved out of the water, but they're quite far off and it's very dark at the moment. Just have a look at that massive animal coming out. Really, really oddly shaped animal, very large head, small legs. Have a look at that. It's marking territory. Using the tail almost like a rudder and spraying the excrement all over the crown where it gets out. And it, funnily enough, always gets out on that very same spot that it is now. There's a little pathway going up there. It goes past a smaller watering hole that's formed just to the off to the side of this big one as a runoff. All the excess water gathers there. Now this is quite a tricky thing. It's something we don't get to see often in the area that we are, unfortunately. And that's how they disappear into the night. Now these hippos, in areas where there's not flowing water, they tend to be a lot less active during the daytime, and they usually move so we don't get to see them too much. But I think from here, what we'll do for now, we're going to leave them. We're going to continue along and see if we might find some nocturnal animals.
Thank you very much. So we are still now checking. We actually on a western side of a quarantine, and this is where the last visual of Kalamba was. And then so that's the reason I come here. It's because now it's dark and there's no general game around here, except for that there was actually elephant trumpeting on the far end that I just heard. But these old impalas have moved away from here. There was a lot of them yesterday. So if she moved far, well, that maybe she'd have a lot of work to do. She's now territorial, Kalamba. And maybe she continue do her business if she don't have a kill around where she's hiding. And this mission of territory, it's just continuously non-stop.
We are going to sit here for another couple minutes. We can just see some stars starting to come through, and we're just going to sit for a little while and listen to hear all of these amazing sounds that we can hear coming through now. All of the night sounds are starting to come through, and it's absolutely spectacular.
is so beautiful out here.
Alright, so we now have completed the western end of the quarantine. So I'm about to actually pass the area where we last saw her last night. But on top of the tree, one of the marula tree here. There's a scrub here. Hey, bunny. So there's a scrub here right in front of us. But it's probably one of the scrub hare that was partner of the one that died. Because we're not actually far from the area. It's right in front of us where we had her on top of the tree. So it's probably the scrub hare wandering around since the partner is gone. Now it's going to try to find its mate. Actually, here are a grass eater creature where they get mobile about. It's amazing how they move. They actually jump almost like a kangaroo. If you see them do that, they don't move like normal animals. They do. They just jump every now and then. But off it goes, off to the bush. It's gone. It's gonna probably stay alert because of probably not finding the friends. So everyone, we're coming in the end of the show from today or of this evening. We're all hoping to have you tomorrow morning again. It's 5:30 African Central Time. So we're all looking forward to meet you all tomorrow. You all stay safe. From us, goodbye.